All right, well, welcome everybody to the first of the positional Major League Rugby draft shows for 2023. Already did our little intro. Just want to thank Irish Rugby Tours, Next Phase Rugby, and the US Rugby Foundation for supporting the videos that we do. And also, thank you to you, the reader and the consumer of the content that we do on Goff Rugby Report. You can go to goffrugbyreport.com/support-GRR to find out how you can support what we do, and we really thank our patrons and Patreon patrons for that. Now, on to the show. We're doing things a little bit differently. We can go position by position. That's actually what we're going to do. I could predict who's going to draft what. I'm not going to do that because, it's a bit of a crapshoot. But we'll talk a little bit about the players that are in there. And we're going to do at least 2 positions per show. And they're going to be mixed, not really related to each other. It's mostly to do with how many players there are in that position up for the draft. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing about this draft is there are just about 100 players shooting for those 39 draft spots, and last year it was closer to about 170. So yeah, there's been a drop-off. And why has there been a drop-off? Well, part of it is I think that there are players who are heeding my advice and saying that take care of your other business first, get yourself to a town that you want to live in, and get yourself to a situation that you want to be in, and then worry about the rugby after that. I think that's one of the things they're going to do, and players are waiting for that. One of the other things is, of course, the issue with foreign players and domestic players, and American players are finding it difficult to break into these Major League Rugby teams. So, you know what? Part of that is, you got to be better. You've got to see what it is that the overseas players bring to the table and do better. That's one thing, but it's also a little bit about how teams operate and how some of them just rely on more experienced players and say, well, he's grown up with the game, and it's not really giving a chance to an American player. And so some of those players are just saying, I'm going to do something else. And one of those options might be the American Raptors or the USA Hawks, or they might go overseas, or they might just still play amateur club rugby, or just take their time. So those are all factors that lead toward the number of players putting themselves out for the draft to drop. Anyway, this show we're talking about hooker, wing, and fullback. So, of course, they're all pretty much the same. The responsibilities, they don't change. Let's have a look at wing and fullback. You can lump them all together because there are only really 3 players who've said that they're fullbacks. And let's have a look at some of the players that are available there. Dalen Denenberg, Santa Clara, a Schultz Award nominee, and a really exciting player out in open field. Great counterattack player, and that's one of the things you might want from a wing fullback. That's when you're going to get open space. So Dalen Denenberg from Santa Clara, I think, has a real shot to get a look. Schultz Award finalist Isaiah Cruze, yes, a younger brother of Mika Cruze, who's an Eagle already. Isaiah, a fly half who has the potential to be more than that, and speed to play on the wing, ball skills to play fullback. I think that he is a very draftable player. And what I've been saying for years now is that, think type 5 first, but actually this group of outside backs is very strong. Third on my list, Lorenzo Vigliani from St. Bonaventure can also play scrum half, so that versatility is one thing. But at the Collegiate Shield, he kind of blew most people away with his athletic and fitness scores. Really good, very quick. So I think that is going to make people stand up and look. And with his fitness, with his speed, with his versatility, certainly draftable. Enrique Carmona from Davenport's a player I really like. He's got skills all over the place. He's kind of tall, long legged. He's from Mexico, which I think qualifies him as a domestic player in MLR, and I think he's very motivated to get in with the team, certainly, and I think it would be a really good fit. He can kick very well. He's really good with the kicking game. Kyle Corrigan from Bishop's University, not only a very smart player, not only the MVP of the Bishop's University rugby team in Canada, he's also actually the university's Athlete of the Year. So there's a player you'd really want to look at. Toronto Arrows, look, they don't have a monopoly on the Canadian players, and I think Corrigan, there's another really good pickup at fullback or wing. Stanislaus Blaskowski, another Canadian player. He's plays in Canada in Concordia, but he's also French in the Racing setup there. Can play fly half. He's saying he's a fullback, and that's one of those things where what you say is what you are as a position is kind of important early on, and some players have run into this issue where they're like, I'll play wherever you want me. Well, then the question is, have you established yourself at a specific position? So he's saying he's a fullback. I think he's got the ability to play fly half. Getting into a starting fly half position as a young, just out of college player is extremely difficult in the MLR. It's difficult in almost any professional setup, which is in a way too bad. But I think that eventually he could be somebody who could play both positions. Josh Shetler, University of Tennessee, I like him. He's very smart. He's captain of that team. Lists himself as a fullback. Actually played a lot of center for Tennessee. Again, the versatility might be good for him. I think I like the body type. He's kind of skinny, but one of those skinny guys who just never seems to break down. He's just very wiry and could be a really good addition. So then we've gone through a lot of wings already, and the idea that that many would be drafted. I mean, we've talked about 7 so far. 7 wings and fullbacks seems like a lot for Major League Rugby draft. So there are players coming in. Ollie Griffiths, UCLA, Australian player, coming out, certainly got the skills. Connor Olvera, very quick out of BYU, certainly could be a dark horse. I would think probably he'd go through the draft and get picked up later. I can't be sure about that. Noah Wright from Central Washington, smart player, knows his game, knows how to play a little bit small. So that's one of those things, again, where, desire to work hard, fitness, athleticism, getting up in the air, things like that will cover up the fact that you're not as tall as me. Okay, you're still taller than me, but you know what I mean. Now we have other players. Ayub Jali from Wheeling University. Very quick, very exciting player. A bit small. Michael Yaboa, Notre Dame College. Same deal. Not a tall man. So how do you get yourself through that? I mean, you just make plays. Ben Volch from Santa Clara. Also a player breaking through on there. And then Jack Morris out of Guelph. He's an underclassman, and I think we'll run into a couple of players who are underclassmen going into this draft. And I personally made the mistake of getting sort of excited about a player who, as it turns out, is coming back for another year. Why do you go in to the draft as an underclassman? I think part of that is you just want to see what the interest is, see what the process is like, things like that. But generally, I mean, you're not going to do this whole sort of like sneaky Larry Bird thing and be able to get signs before the draft comes up another time. So those are your wings and fullbacks, and I think, and like I said, there's actually a depth of talent. Bigger and more powerful bodies, for one thing. You see some players choosing to say that they're a fullback when they might be a center or a fly half, something like that. That's an interesting choice to sort of say, look, how do they think they can probably get into a Major League Rugby lineup? Well, maybe you can get there in fullback, show that you can make open field tackles, show that you can run, show that you can catch kicks, show that you can chase kicks and make them, things like that. All sorts of things that a lot of conservative MLR coaches won't trust a young player with if they're wearing a number 10 on their jersey. All right, hooker. Well, I think most of these guys are actually a little bit small for this job. The game of rugby is changing to the point that you look at someone and say, oh, you're a prop. And it turns out they're not. They're now kind of a hooker and maybe still small for that. But ultimately, the story about playing hooker is still the same. You do need to get around the park a little bit. You do need to be able to throw your lineouts. Winning the hook at the scrum, well, that's really an 8-man job these days, but the lineout throws are crucial. Being a fourth loose forward, that's really important as well. Well, Francis Renaco Bernard from Lindenwood plays actually number 6 a lot of the times at Lindenwood. He is not huge. He's not a huge guy, but at 5'10", 215, probably something like that now, I think he can make a ton of difference for a team. He's very knowledgeable, gets around the park, gets a lot of work done. He's one of those underclassmen who went through the draft process last year. Looked good last year, but was smart enough to stay and get his degree. From South Africa, so doesn't check that U.S. domestic box just yet. Gabe Mahuinga, who's was a big star for Harriman High School and performed well for the USA age grades. BYU, another player. I think he's got mobility. I think he's got game sense. I think he's got power. I think he can throw in the line out. BYU's line out functioned pretty well. I think he's draftable. I definitely think he's draftable. Jonah Auva'a from Central Washington is a player, maybe a bit of a dark horse on this one, but boy, is he a powerful unit out in open field, and he likes to hit and likes to power through tackles. So I think he is someone who really could move up in the draft list, and people might say, well, who is this guy? He was a big part of a very good Central Washington team this year. Theo Espanyol from the University of Ottawa GGs. Well, he's a Frenchman. Clermont-Auvergne is where he's from. He's been playing a very long time. Talented and understands what he's doing, so it'd be a good pickup for any team there. Another one from overseas, Scotsman Matthew Conroy from St. Bonaventure. He's been playing a long time as well. He's a bit taller, actually, than some of the players that we've seen here. A lot of times we see college teams come in and they look and say, you're built like a prop, but you're 5'8". So number 2 jersey goes on you. There it is. Conroy, a little bit taller, understands what he's supposed to be doing as a hooker, and I think he'd be a good pickup. But again, not a domestic box check on that. And here's one that I'm very interested in. Jackson Zabarik from UC Santa Cruz. They've got one of there's their jersey up there. Plays number 8. Played number 8 for the Banana Slugs for the most part. Lists himself as a hooker. Very smart move, because number 8s in professional rugby, we're talking about 6'2" and up. And hookers, you can play hooker at 5'6", 5'7". And if you're 6 feet tall and you're a hooker and you slam people down and you cover the ground and you've got handling skills, that could be very, very attractive. I think Zabarik is another dark horse. So now we've got a couple of question mark players. Lance Fenomai, who played for St. Vincent, small college player. Looks like he's got power, looks like he's got skills, but he's playing against small college opposition. It's just such a massive jump. I think that's difficult to see, and we have seen some small college and Division II players drafted. I think they have to dominate. I think they have to dominate to be able to do that. Andrew Mosqueda from San Diego State, very, very savvy player, understands the flow of the game very, very well. I don't think he's going to be drafted. I think he's a nice project, and I think if he's smart, he finds a town with a Major League Rugby team in town that he knows is going to stick around. Gets going with the local club, gets his job going, and then people look around. And after a couple of years, I think he's going to build up his body a little bit stronger. Maybe participate in either academy stuff or their SMC stuff, something that he can get in with the MLR team and say, yes, I'm dedicated to that. Damon James from Mount St. Mary's, a good runner with the ball. Didn't see an awful lot more. Mateus Calvo from Dartmouth, not a tall man. He's from Guam. He's co-captain, a really good character guy, but he's got to play. He's got to play 5 inches taller, really, in that. And then Scott Bowers, Pacific Pride, underclassman as far as I understand it, and that's another one that he's not quite graduated yet, so that'll be interesting. So that's what I've got for wing and fullback and for hooker. Players who look like they might possibly be draftable. Players who will probably do well if they get a little bit extra time. They're undrafted and then maybe they sign with a team and then and sort of take their chances. And other players where it's just really tough. I mean, if you are smaller than average, then you have to be all these other things bigger than average. And you look at someone. Let's look at a player like Nate Augsburger, who is smaller than average as a wing, plays test match wing, even though he's actually a scrum half. Partly because of his versatility, partly because of his intensity, but his fitness, his desire to go up in the air, all of those things make him special. You've got to make yourself special as well.